I walked into Randall's office with a cardboard box in one hand and a plain manila folder in the other. Didn't say a word. Just dropped the box by the chair, set the folder on his desk, and looked him in the eye. 12 years of loyalty. Designing the back-end systems that made the company what it was. I was the architect behind every one of our major rollouts, and now, I was done. Randall Cates leaned back in his leather chair, grinning like I'd just handed him a birthday card. He flipped open the folder, scanned the first page, and actually laughed. "You're serious?" he asked, still smirking. "Good luck finding another job at your age in this field." "You're 48, Nate." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, like he was giving me a friendly little tip. "This industry chews up guys like you after 45. You really want to start over now?" That smug bastard. He'd been doing this for years, taking credit for my work, parading it around at conferences like he built it himself. Every time he stood in front of a crowd with a laser pointer, that was my code running in the background, my models, my logic. I stayed calm, just nodded once, then opened my mouth for the first time since I walked in. "I've got copies of everything," I said, voice steady. "Every system I built, every model I ran, every test I documented, all backed up, all clean. And I've got records showing you never touched a single line of it." His smile dropped half an inch. "Excuse me?" he said. "You heard me. You've been standing on my work for 12 years, and I've got a full log of emails, Git commits, internal memos, all of it. You're a suit with a loud voice, Randall. Nothing more." He pushed the folder aside like it had started burning his fingers. "You're bluffing." I grabbed the folder again and tucked it under my arm. "You want to test that? Try it. But I guarantee you, by the time I walk out of this office, I'll already be worth more than you." His jaw tensed. No witty reply this time. Just silence. I picked up my box and turned toward the door. "Quick note. Before we go deeper, tell us. Where are you watching from right now?" The door clicked shut behind me. I didn't even flinch. I didn't need his approval. I didn't even want it. The truth was, I'd already made my move months ago. I didn't go home right after quitting. Just sat in my truck in the parking lot, engine off, staring at the dashboard. My hands were shaking, but not from nerves, from pure, controlled fury. That moment wasn't born today. It had been building. It started 9 months earlier, at our annual company retreat in Lake Geneva. Fancy lodge, white tablecloths, open bar, the kind of event where executives pat each other on the back for work they never did. I wasn't even supposed to be in the conference room that afternoon. I came back early from lunch to grab my charger, and that's when I heard it. Randall standing in front of the board, pointer in hand, smiling like a damn prom king. "The real breakthrough," he said, tapping the slide, "was the adaptive load balancing framework. That's what let us handle the seasonal volume spikes across hubs. I designed it to account for weight variance, route priority, and weather delay risk. It was a grind, but worth it. I froze. That wasn't just a lie. That was my work, my exact model. I'd spent 9 months developing it, testing it, breaking it, rebuilding it from scratch. He didn't even understand how it worked. I'd had to draw him a flowchart once just to explain what a constraint relaxation loop was. I backed out of the room without a sound. That night, I started a folder on my personal cloud. No labels, no tags, just a string of random characters as the name. Inside it, I started dropping everything. Screenshots of system dashboards with my user handle. Commit logs from our Git repo with my initials next to every build. Emails where Randall asked me to simplify the explanation so he could present them better. Voice memos I'd recorded during late-night work sessions, talking through model logic out loud while coding, and time-stamped documents, drafts, revisions, tests, every line of proof that it was mine. From that point on, every time he asked me to explain something one more time, I logged it. I made notes. I built timelines for every feature I built that he pitched as his own. It was obsessive. I knew that. I knew, but I wasn't going to be the silent guy in the background, while he collected praise for something he couldn't even spell correctly. Couple weeks later, I started digging through our internal HR policies. Buried in the employee agreement was a line about intellectual property. Anything developed outside of work hours using non-company equipment could be classified as personal research. So I got to work. I rewrote part of our policy doc under the section about independent innovation, worded it clean, no red flags, just enough to carve out protection for personally funded research contributions. I ran it past Randall one afternoon, said it was a legal formality to update our compliance with vendor contracts. He didn't even read it, just signed the digital approval and moved on. That was the moment I knew he saw me as harmless, a background tech guy, a glorified IT grunt with no spine. He'd never imagined I could gut his entire reputation from the inside out. He was wrong. 2 days later, I encrypted the folder and backed it up to 3 separate locations. 2 clouds and a physical drive I kept at home, locked in a case. I didn't plan to use it right away. I wanted it ready, clean, ironclad. And every time Randall walked into a meeting after that, bragging about his strategy or his method, I didn't say a word. I just watched, listened, documented. I could wait. I had time. And he was digging his own grave every damn day. By the time I had that folder sealed and backed up, I knew exactly where this was heading. I just didn't know how fast it would all fall into place. It was a Thursday, mid-June. I was at a supply chain tech expo in Nashville, on company time, of course, standing by our booth like a damn prop, while Randall talked nonsense to investors. I took a break, walked the floor, tried to breathe. That's when I ran into her, Tasha Keene, head of development at Argonne Systems. Our #1 rival and the only team whose software had ever come close to ours. She recognized me first. "You're Nate Kessler, right?" she said. "I've been trying to figure out who the hell actually builds the stuff your company keeps hyping." She didn't smile when she said it, just stood there, arms crossed, watching me. "I build most of it," I said. "Most of it?" 98%. Randall puts his name on it. That made her smile. We talked for 20 minutes by the coffee station, real tech talk, no fluff, no buzzwords. I mentioned a few feature quirks in our model that only the actual architect would know. She didn't ask for files or proof. She didn't need to. A week later, she emailed me, said she was heading back to Milwaukee the next day and wanted to grab coffee if I was around. We met at a diner off in 94. No suits, no laptops. Just 2 people who spoke the same damn language for once. I didn't show her any code, didn't name any clients or leak anything confidential. But I gave her enough design logic, infrastructure patterns, key problem-solving approaches that she knew I was the real deal. By the end of the meeting, she looked me in the eye and said, "If you ever want to build something that actually matters, come talk to me." I didn't take it lightly. That night, I pulled out my legal documents, reread every line. There was no non-compete, no IP clause that held water, especially with the new language I'd snuck into the policy doc. I met with a lawyer 3 days later, just to be sure. She went through everything, word by word, and gave me the green light. So I started prepping. I moved my backups offline, cleaned up metadata, logged every file with timestamps. I wrote up development notes for each core model, what I'd built on company time versus what I'd done on my own hours, on my own gear. I even had screenshots of Slack messages where Randall asked me for presentation notes 5 minutes before going live. 2 months later, Tasha called again. "We're offering you CTO," she said. "You'll have full build freedom, your own team, and real ownership." It didn't take me long to say yes. I didn't announce it right away. I played it cool, kept showing up at work, kept doing my job, even helped Randall prep for a webinar. Meanwhile, I worked nights and weekends lining everything up. Contracts, move logistics, onboarding with Argonne's legal. Then came the day. I walked into Randall's office, dropped the same resignation letter you already heard about, and told him where I was going. "Argonne?" he said, eyes wide. "You're joining them?" "Yep." "You can't do that. You must be under some kind of NDA or non-compete." I shook my head. "Check your records. I never signed either. You said you didn't want to scare off your talent with paperwork, remember?" He stared at me, blinking. "I was never your talent," I added. "I was your safety net." He went pale, really pale, like he'd just realized the company's brain had walked out the door. I didn't wait for a goodbye. I just walked out. I didn't celebrate after walking out. Didn't pop champagne or post some dramatic on to the next chapter update. I just drove straight to Argonne's office in Milwaukee, picked up my new badge, and walked into a real job with real leadership. My team was already waiting. 14 engineers, 2 data scientists, a project lead, and a UX guy who actually listened. I wasn't just coding anymore. I was building. And Randall? He was still living in fantasy land. The day I left, he posted a photo of himself on LinkedIn with some half smile and a caption like, "When you build something strong, you don't panic when people come and go. You evolve." 5 days later, he was reposting some Harvard Business Review article about resilience in leadership and quoting Steve Jobs like he was auditioning for a TED Talk. It was pathetic. By week 2, the cracks started showing. First, it was little things, typos in the output logs, minor delays and routing adjustments, one hub reporting shipments getting diverted the long way for no reason. Then came the questions. I saw them popping up in public comments under his posts. Curious how your team handles resource throttling across regionals? What's your response strategy for real-time route failures? Is the adaptive model rule-based or generative? He didn't respond. Not once. Just ignored them and kept posting vague leadership quotes. Vision over visibility, or some crap like that. By week 3, the silence was deafening. Someone messaged me privately from inside the company, said their senior dev had quit 2 days after me. Another guy was trying to reverse engineer my main dispatcher module and couldn't even find where to start. They asked if I'd left behind documentation. I hadn't. Not because I was petty, but because Randall never asked for it. He thought he could just plug someone else in and let the machine run itself. Didn't work like that. The models were built with layers, hyper-specific logic tied to customer behaviors, lane patterns, vendor response times. You couldn't just figure it out unless you'd lived in that code like I had. By week 4, the clients noticed. Big ones, high-paying ones. One Fortune 100 client sent a formal complaint. Performance downgrades, missed thresholds, failed auto adjustments. They were furious. Another asked why delivery windows were slipping, and tracking pings were showing inaccurate data. Someone from support blamed a minor system recalibration. The client didn't buy it. That same day, Randall reposted a picture of a mountain peak with the caption, "Leadership means staying calm at the summit while the wind howls." I almost laughed. Back at Argonne, we were running smooth. My team crushed our first sprint. We rolled out a new core feature that optimized last-mile routing by 11%. 11%. I was finally doing the work I wanted to do. Real architecture, real engineering. Not just cleaning up someone else's mess or writing code for some ego-driven exec to parade around. And the view from my corner office? It wasn't just glass and skyline. It was peace, clarity, purpose. The next week, I heard Randall tried holding an all-hands tech meeting to rally the troops. Half the team didn't show up. The other half asked questions he couldn't answer. One of them apparently asked, "Can we get Nate's version of the workflow model?" He didn't respond, just ended the meeting early. Another engineer reached out to me privately, not to ask for help, but to say thanks. Said seeing me walk out made them start applying for better jobs too. Randall had spent 12 years stepping on people like me, thinking we'd never leave, thinking we needed him. Turns out, we didn't. He needed us. People were reposting clips from the panel, tagging Argonne and quoting lines from my breakdown. A guy from Intel called it the most clear-eyed logistics explanation he had heard in years. One of our interns made a meme of Randall's face during my talk. It went viral inside our Slack in under 10 minutes. That was Tuesday. A few days later, I was sitting 5 rows from the stage at the Global Optimization Forum, arms crossed, badge clipped to my blazer, trying not to laugh. The ballroom was packed, over 2,000 execs, engineers, researchers, all here for the main stage keynote. Randall Cates was the opener, front and center. Big screens on both sides of him, name in bold letters. CEO, Brightload Technologies, revolutionizing adaptive logistics. He walked on stage like he belonged there. Smooth suit, fake confidence, The usual. His opening was polished enough. Generic stuff, pushing boundaries, redefining efficiency, leveraging data for smarter freight solutions. You could have swapped him with a TEDx speaker, and no one would have noticed the difference. But then came the Q&A. First question, front row. Can you walk us through the real-time decision logic in your predictive routing layer? Randall smiled. That's built into our proprietary system, but at a high level, it uses feedback to dynamically adjust based on congestion signals. Second question, which statistical model handles the uncertainty layer? Bayesian inference? Monte Carlo? He blinked. It's a hybrid model. A bit of everything. We believe in flexibility. People started shifting in their seats. Third question, from a woman with a Stanford badge. I looked at your white paper. One of the routing graphs you showed, those weight distributions are mathematically impossible. The load balance doesn't converge. Randall chuckled. Well, I guess impossible depends on perspective. That's when the murmurs started. A guy behind me whispered, "He's dodging." Someone else said, "He's cooked." And then it happened. From the middle of the auditorium, Tasha stood up. Her voice was sharp, calm, and cut through the room like a blade. "Actually," she said, "I think our CTO can explain the models Mr. Cates' referencing." Heads turned. She nodded toward me, and just like that, the spotlight shifted. Randall looked like he'd seen a ghost. I stood up slowly, buttoned my jacket, and walked past 2 full rows of executives, all eyes on me. I didn't stop, didn't look back, didn't even glance at him. I just stepped up onto the stage and took the mic. "Let's clear a few things up," I said. The models in question use a reinforcement learning core wrapped in a Markov decision process. The weight distributions she mentioned, they converge when you factor in temporal variance and route history, assuming you built your system to learn from both. Dead silence, then a few nods, then someone clapped. I kept going. The optimization layer breaks down into 3 paths: reactive, predictive, and adaptive. Most systems fail because they mix those categories without defining boundaries. Ours handles each separately and communicates across layers. I looked out into the room. "That's how you prevent what's happening to Brightload right now?" A low ripple of laughs moved through the crowd. Randall was still standing off to the side, eyes unfocused, face tight. He looked smaller somehow, like the stage was shrinking under him. I wrapped it clean, no overkill, no flexing. Just enough to make it clear who built the foundation and who faked the blueprints. The moderator thanked me. Panelists were nodding. Someone in the audience yelled, "Hire this man!" I handed back the mic and walked straight off the stage. Randall didn't say a word. He didn't need to, because in that room, in front of 2,000 of the industry's best, he was already gone. The second I stepped off stage, it was chaos. Lights, mics, reporters coming in from both sides. Some had badges, others were just shoving their phones in my face. I hadn't even made it past the curtain before the first question hit me. "So why was Randall Cates presenting your work for 12 years? I didn't flinch, just looked right at the woman holding the mic and said, "You'll have to ask him." That was all I gave them. 1 sentence. And that was all they needed. Randall tried to slide out through the side exit, but someone caught him, camera in his face, voice raised. "Is it true you took credit for Nate Kessler's work? Were you ever involved in the model development directly?" He didn't deny it, not outright. He just threw his hands up and said, "It was always a collaboration, a team effort. We were all building it together. Sure, the hashtag started picking up steam. Cates exposed. By the time I got back to the Argonne table, my phone was vibrating non-stop. Tasha handed me a water bottle and said, "You just started a fire." 2 hours after that, Argonne's media team issued a press release, full confirmation that I was the original developer of all core logistics frameworks now used by Brightload Technologies. Dates, patents, contributions, public record. I didn't write it, didn't touch it, just approved it. The media jumped fast. Tech blogs, trade magazines, even a mainstream outlet ran with the headline, "CTO breaks silence. Brightload's secret brain speaks out." Randall tried to go quiet. No statements, no interviews, too late. That was when his investors started asking questions. Why didn't the CTO have any development experience? Why was the company hemorrhaging engineers? Why was the only functioning IP tied to a guy who hadn't worked there in weeks? Randall didn't have answers. By Friday, it was official. Brightload released a sterile little statement around 6:15 p.m., hoping to bury it in the weekend scroll. Randall Cates will be stepping down from his role as CEO, effective immediately. No thank you, no legacy nod. Just a quiet kill shot. My phone blew up again. People I hadn't heard from in years. Ex-coworkers, random engineers from the other side of the country. Most of them just sent one line. He's done. I didn't gloat. Didn't post a victory lap or tweet a meme. I just forwarded the press release to my team and wrote, "Truth wins." Then I shut my laptop and walked out of the office, not saying a word. By the following Monday, the legal floodgates opened. Randall's old firm filed formal challenges to the patents tied to the adaptive and routing systems. Said they were developed under corporate direction. Tried claiming joint ownership. I expected it. Hell, I would have done the same if I were them. But they didn't have what I had. My logs were airtight. Time-stamped builds. Internal commit histories. Off-hours code pushes. Every step tracked and mirrored to off-site backups. Proof that the most critical work had been done on my own equipment, on my own time, and I had contracts signed under their nose that protected personal research, including his signature. Our lawyers didn't even flinch. Argonne's counsel hit back fast. Cease and desist, public filings, formal patent reassignment requests. The firm's only real move was to settle, which they did. 7 figures, wired in installments over 8 months. I didn't even read the full breakdown. All I saw was the final line. N. Kessler, listed inventor on all disputed patents. Sole contributor, 8 technologies total. My name next to everyone. Randall could have dragged it out, but he didn't. I think even he knew it was done. His board dissolved half their client contracts within 3 weeks. Vendors backed out, talent kept leaving. One article ran a headline calling Brightload a cautionary tale in stolen innovation. The stock hit rock bottom by the end of the quarter. I didn't celebrate. I just worked. We rolled out our new platform beta during that same stretch. Early numbers were clean. Performance was high. Failure rates low. Clients were already lining up. Then one morning, I walked into my office and found a letter on my desk. No stamp, no envelope, just a folded page written in blue ink. I took credit for your genius and convinced myself I deserved it. You were always the real builder. I was just standing in your light. No name, but it didn't need one. It was his handwriting. I sat there for maybe a minute, didn't feel triumph, didn't feel sorry for him either. I just stared at the words like they were a little too late to matter. Then I dropped the letter in the drawer and got back to work. 6 months later, I stood backstage at the same conference where Randall had fallen apart. This time, they introduced me differently, not just a title, not just a name. They called me the architect behind the industry's most advanced freight optimization platform. I didn't smile, didn't wave, just walked out and grabbed the mic. The lights hit. Crowd was full, same stage, same event, but a whole new story. No one else on stage, just me. I pulled up the first slide. Clean, no logos, just a simple header. Real solutions for real systems. And I walked them through it. Not a pitch, not marketing, just real work. I showed them the new platform, what we'd built at Argonne, piece by piece. I laid out the logic paths, the adaptive layers, the correction loops, showed real-world examples, graphs, error drops, efficiency gains. I didn't use a single buzzword, not once. Every sentence came straight from the late nights I spent debugging code while Randall slept. From weekends I lost chasing logic trees he never even knew existed. From the 100 times I almost quit, but didn't. The crowd was locked in. You could feel it. 2,000 people, dead quiet, just listening. And when I hit the final slide, the last line of code behind the routing engine, I paused, gave them a second to breathe, then came the applause. Not polite clapping, a real full standing ovation. I looked out over the room, and yeah, it hit hard. Not because of the noise, but because it was mine. Every bit of it. No one else standing next to me. No one stealing credit. No one twisting it into some fake vision speech. I stepped off stage, heart pounding. Not from nerves, but from finally feeling seen. Tasha was waiting in the wings. She didn't say much, just looked me in the eye and said, "You earned every bit of this." I nodded. That's all I needed. I wasn't just visible now. I was undeniable. And the best part? I never had to raise my voice. Never had to fake a thing. I just did the work, walked away, and let the truth do the talking.